And today I'm joined on the show by, y'all didn't put, who is this?
Biden.
Joe Biden's here?
You're such an asshole.
No, his son, Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought Joe Biden was going to be here.
No.
Well, hi.
Sorry to disappoint you at the beginning of this.
Your dad, it says, was a senator for hundreds of years, vice president and president. That's impressive.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Oh my God. Seriously?
What do you do? Other than be related to someone cool?
Well, I'm one of the central figures, I guess you're going to say next, in the Biden crime family. I
have an energy drink.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Called Pep.
You know how many of these I've done?
And have you? I value treating my body.
You know,
with
seriously,
respect,
you know how many of these I've done?
And if you go to drinkpep.com, you can get a gut-friendly energy.
You're going to need something gut-friendly.
So you have energy that treats your body with respect.
I swear to God, this
Hunter
is such
does.
bullshit. I wish I did bring people with me
So
that they could get me out of here.
let's get serious. I am gay.
Really? Wow. Seriously? I'm so amazed. You're gay.
Are you gay?
Only a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah. I think
More or less
everybody's
than
a little bit gay.
50%.
What?
More or less than 50%.
48.6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is this fucking serious?
If you were gay, would I be your type?
No. A little bit more masculine would be, I think, my type if I was gay.
Really? Can I get Y723, please? If I'm not your type, then why did you embrace me like this? Go ahead, take a look.
Jesus Christ. I don't know. It all is coming back to me. I was in a stupor at that point. I think that was pre-2019 when I got sober. Where is that from? What hotel?
So when you were an addict, I looked more attractive.
Much.
Oh.
Much clearly. That's kind of embarrassing.
Did I hear you're a painter?
I am. Yes.
Gay, yeah.
Yeah. Did you say gay?
What?
What?
What'd you say?
I said, yes, I'm a painter.
You're a painter.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're very colorful.
I do.
Colorful.
I do.
Rainbow of colors.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's test it out then. Shall we? Can I get Y, please? The whole thing.
Oh my God.
What you're gonna do here is sketch me, and I'll sketch you, and we'll see who's better. Okay?
Sure.
Ready, go.
Okay. Do this. One. I do this. There's a finger that comes out to here.
All right, that's time.
Wait.
That's time.
Wait a
That's
second.
I make the rules. That's time.
Okay. Yeah.
You want to show yours?
Yeah. This is mine. Oh, wow. You're quite an amazing.
Thank you so much for being here, Hunter.
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That wasn't the real interview?
Woo, no, that was not. I very much know who you are. Have been loving seeing you all over the place, and that kind of connects to my first serious question.
Yeah. Yes.
Seriously, thank you for being here. This is great.
I love being here. Thank you. Buddy.
That's so funny. It feels like I remember covering from 2022.
I want to get back to the gay question. Maybe take back 48.5, more like 47. After that conversation, I went. My gaydom went down a percentage point. Yeah,
I couldn't. I was trying not to break so hard. Okay. I remember covering. Obviously, you were the subject of right-wing demonization for a very long time before this. But when I started doing my show, covered extensively all the hearings once Republicans took over the House, going into 2023, and remember thinking, where is Hunter to address this himself?
Yeah.
What made you shift gears? Is it just that your father left the presidency, or from I'm just gonna be out of public life altogether to I'm gonna do interviews, I'm gonna face these things, even face some of the people who were telling those lies about you to their face?
Well, more than anything, it was just the practicality of it. The practicality of me going out on my own while my dad was still president of the United States, while I was still under investigation by the Department of Justice, while I was under indictment, while I was subject to the Federal Bureau of Probation. It does not lend itself to, if you're smart, to going out and being very vocal. So the practicality of it was one part of it. The other part of it is that I saw somebody say, Hunter was such a distraction. It was by no choice of my own that I was a distraction in this. Is that it was the most prolific public shaming and conspiracy to humiliate me, and I don't mean like it was a conspiracy, like we didn't all see it. That the level of dehumanization that began with Donald Trump with the Where's Hunter campaign, as if I was in hiding. I wasn't in hiding. I was number one, and I've been sober since June of 2019, and I was shocked when I came out and started to talk for myself, to realize that, and I don't know why I was shocked, that very few people knew that. They conflated all of the pictures that they saw in the New York Post and my transparency about my crack addiction with this idea that throughout my dad's entire presidency, I was still an addict, still using. And so anyway, the first one that I came out and dropped, a copious number of F-bombs on was, which I really love because I think he's one of the smartest people out there, is Andrew Callahan on Channel 5. And then I did Sean Ryan, and then I did Candace Owens. And then I decided, you know what? They built this platform to publicly humiliate me on. And at the end of the day, when their crowd kind of went home and, they stopped throwing tomatoes at me, I still had a platform. And I hadn't used it in any way to talk about the thing that I care about the most. And the thing that I care about the most is that there's 50 million people in the United States of America right now, at least, that are directly dealing with a substance abuse problem. And there are, by virtue of that, there is not a single person in this country that does not have someone that they care deeply about that is not struggling with addiction, if not themselves alone. And I felt like, you know what? One of the things that I'm most proud of is that I stayed clean and sober through all of that. And that to me is something that I'm not just proud about, but I know that there's so many people that are still out there that are sick and suffering, that the thing that helped me the most was when other people shared their story of what we call in recovery, their experience, strength, and hope. And so that's what I want to talk about. Politics is the bait to get people to talk about the one thing that connects us all. And that's pain. The pain of suffering of addiction, the pain and suffering of losing someone, the pain and suffering of having someone in your family that is suffering from cancer, like my father or like my brother did. The pain of losing someone that you love, like I did with my mother and my brother and my sister. And so I get the chance to talk to people and maybe give them a little hope that there's something on the other side of what they so often feel alone in, their grief, their addiction, their whatever suffering that they're facing.
So you weren't thinking to yourself, this is my big debut, telling my story. It was just, this is a time now, a lot of the controversies in the past, and I could use my platform to discuss my experience with suffering. And then it kind of segued into being a little bit of a political platform.
Yeah, because part of it, everybody watched and they adopted the story from the perspective of whatever algorithm they were on. But very few people stood up for me personally, and I understand why. It's very difficult to separate the the pictures of me smoking crack with prostitutes in a motel room from the person that I am, that I know, that I know, and the people that love me know. And so I realized that if I was going to, I had to do it for myself. And so it wasn't, I didn't have some grand plan. All I knew is that I had an opportunity to talk to millions of people that have gone through what I'm going through and say to them this one thing, is that guilt is an appropriate emotion, particularly in recovery. Getting honest with yourself and with the people around you is the only way forward. But what you have to do is, and you have to make amends for those things that you are appropriately guilty for. But you don't have to live in shame. The shame is saying that you're not worthy of love and you're not worthy of loving yourself. And you have to drop the shame if you want to break the cycle of addiction. And no one was more publicly shamed that I know of than I have been over the course of the last 7 years or so. And I found a way through. And I found a way through with radical transparency, with saying things that are true, that everybody knows to be true, but that people very rarely say.
Yeah. It is really jarring how the propaganda that was pumped out, because like you have repeated multiple times, it was never really, the attacks against you were never really about you, but using you as a tool to harm your father.
It was never about me.
And so it's fascinating how those attacks against you for the purpose of getting to your dad even worked on people who were trying to fact check the root claim that the right wanted people to believe, which was corruption, Biden crime family, Joe Biden. And obviously they never were able to substantiate anything to that degree. But it's been shocking even for me, who tried to study the issue a lot when these claims would come up and all these hearings and this is what Hunter was doing and being like, no, they're lying about this, they're lying about that. But still they were successful in portraying you as a villain. And like you said, in a position that I was in, it was easier to go, yeah, okay, maybe he's bad, but Joe Biden didn't do anything wrong. And watching even the most aggressive voices against you change their perspective just because of the radical transparency you've provided in the last year or so is crazy. It's crazy for me, who was trying to debunk the right-wing ideas, to have still fallen for the kind of dehumanization. And then watching and hearing your interviews and going, oh my gosh, this is not at all who I had been told was Hunter Biden.
Yeah, exactly. I always say to people that more than anybody in public life right now is that I benefit from incredibly low expectations. If I show up and I'm not the portrait of the failed son ne'er-do-well that has been painted of me. And without much objection on the part of anybody, even within the administration, understandably, it was about protecting the administration. So making the distinction, okay, well, what Hunter did is what Hunter's business. It never involved his father, which number one is that part's true, but no one ever went back to say what Hunter did was not criminal. Hunter's addiction, his use of drugs, obviously, the fact that I, like about 50 million other Americans on any given year, filed my taxes late and paid
throw away the key.
Paid the penalties and interest on that years before they ever charged me with that. Or like the two things that they came up with, which I had plea agreements for each, was that I failed to pay my taxes on time in 2016 and 17 in the midst of my drug use. And when I realized that, when I came out of that period of time in my life, I immediately filed my taxes and paid the penalties and interest that I owed, which were, well over $1 million. And that during that period of time, I was in possession of a firearm for an 11-day period of time, which I never loaded nor fired, and that a loved one of mine found in the lockbox of my car and was concerned that I was going to do something to myself. So they threw it away in a trash can. And I told them that they had to go back and get it because they cannot do that. And they went back to get it, couldn't find it. And I said, well, you have to call the police. Those were the two charges. 922 G3 has just been overturned as unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. And the tax charge I pled guilty to. And so other than that, what I always say to people is the laptop. Think about this. There is not a single communication, and every single communication of mine has been made public for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. My entire digital footprint, not just of what was there, but every deleted communication. Think about that. They had, and it didn't all come from a laptop. It came from multiple devices in an iCloud, in which they had deleted voicemails from my father. But they had all of those voicemails from people. They had every text message from multiple phones. They had every email. And there's not one single communication that has ever surfaced in which I say, I'm going to get or someone saying to me, we need your dad to do this for us and we'll pay you this. Not one. Meanwhile, these guys are out there literally raking in billions of dollars by virtue of one thing: that their father is president of the United States, and that they are that they're able to deliver Department of Defense contracts, that they're able to deliver legislation or executive orders or pardons, or and they're being out front and open about it. I mean, Jesus Christ, Don Jr. just started a club the day after inauguration called the Executive Club, and the whole club is the stated purpose is that you pay $500,000 to be a member. The most expensive membership fee in the country for any private club other than Mar-a-Lago, in which you get to go and rub shoulders with the decision makers of his father's administration. Yep. I mean, it's insane. So even if you believed everything that Fox News told you about me, and they told you everything, I mean, they spent hours and hours. I was the third most spoken about person on Fox News for a 4-year period straight.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. And even if you believed everything that Sean Hannity would have you believe, it doesn't even begin to measure up to what they're doing right in front of us. And I say all the time, hey, New York Times, where are you? And they would point out that, well, we wrote this article. I said, you know how many articles you wrote about me? You know how many hours that you spent on CNN or, all of these things that we, what I call the captured corporate media? Hours and hours and hours. I don't know how many articles were written in the New York Times or ink spilled over, my dad's age beginning in 2022, as compared to literally Donald Trump cannot keep his eyes open in front of the entire press corps. He falls asleep in his chair on a regular basis right now as a press conference is going on with his cabinet standing behind him. And you know what? We're all supposed to say, oh, okay. Like, you know what I mean? So I know this is that I'm out here talking to, one, correct the record, but number two, to talk to people that are still sick and suffering out there. And number three is to attack what is directly in front of their eyes. And one thing I know is that what better messenger to talk about corruption than the person that they think is the most corrupt. So as you know, you can ask me anything. Mm-hmm. I'll go on any show. I'll go on Tucker. I'll go on Candace. I'll sit down with Nick Fuentes even. I will go on anywhere. Ask me anything. There is nothing off limits, because then you know what I get to speak to you about? I get to speak to you about the single most, I think, the singular existential threat that we all face. That's Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. Two thoughts. The first is, I wish the scale of information that was obtained about you could be obtained about the sons of Trump. Be fascinating what would be discovered there. And then
I know, show me your laptop. Yeah, that's what I say to everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then two, let me know if you agree with this theory, because I've thought about this a lot when you brought up mainstream, quote unquote, liberal media. Because even though it infuriates me, I understand why the right-wing media does what it does. It's a machine. It has these intentions. It's fighting for a certain cause, and they're willing to cut corners or lie to get to their goal. And I get that is what this machine is. I almost get more uncomfortable by the wrongs committed by more trustworthy news outlets or the double standards of them. And you brought up the New York Times or some of these mainstream outlets who probably discussed you way more than they'll investigate the corruption of the Trump brothers. Okay, it's easy to go, that's so annoying, but the why under it, do you think the reason why there just still doesn't feel to be the same level of anger in the discourse about the Trump family corruption as even there was about a mythical Biden, whatever?
Yeah.
Is that because there is shame in the Democratic Party? Like, your father did not want people to believe something that was wrong, but even if it weren't, he wouldn't want people to believe he was trying to profit off the presidency to a huge degree, right? Whereas, is it the brazenness? Any degree, yeah.
I mean, my dad, that's the crazy part, is you have 35 years of or longer, you have 50 years of tax returns of my father. Yeah. You have the verifiable evidence by virtue of his self-reporting is that he entered the presidency with probably the lowest net worth of anyone that's entered the presidency, and he left with the lowest net worth of anyone in at least modern times that has left the presidency.
But is it because Trump isn't even disputing it? Is it because it's like, this is what I'm doing?
I don't know.
The mainstream outlets
Luke,
don't have the same fury?
Explain to me. Part of it is like, if you really want to understand, in my opinion, about what their objective is and how they're going to go about it, is just spend some time listening to Steve Bannon, because it's not like he hides it. He's before January 6th, 2 days before the election, there is hours and hours of audio tape that was captured and leaked of him talking to this guy, Miles Gao, who's now serving 64 years, I believe, in prison for fraud, who is a Chinese dissident living in the United States that started the Himalayan, I forget what it called. It was a Chinese dissident group, and he bilked money from all of them. And you know who built that with him?
Bannon?
Steve Bannon. Peter Navarro was the ambassador of the Himalayan Front, or whatever they called it. It's outright corruption in front of our eyes, in which they literally, I think it's because they know that if you're that brazen about it, it's kind of like if you're that brazen in your fraud, it's hard to believe that fraud is actually happening. And one of the things that Bannon always says is that they're going to flood the zone. The fire hose effect is that it becomes almost impossible to keep up with the volume of their egregious acts. I mean, literally, they are doing things on a daily basis. Like, okay, let's look at what Howard Lutnick doing and his sons are doing with tariff refunds and making hundreds of millions of dollars off of tariff refunds that they put in place. Let's look at what the Secretary Bergman's nephew is doing as it relates to energy deals, across the globe. I mean, that's one that I know about that I've never even heard written about. Let's look at what the sons are doing. Or wait a second. They're going to turn Gaza into a golf course, and they're saying it out loud. Literally, they're talking about turning Gaza into what do you do? Like, oh my gosh, he's selling insider information directly out front on True Social for $100,000. I think only 6 people have signed up for it, and the reason only 6 people have signed up for it is because they know it's illegal, whether he thinks it is or not. Yeah. But they're doing all of it, and it's this fire hose. And part of it is the inability of the mainstream press, whatever that equals today, to keep up with it. But the other part about it is this, and I think that we have to get honest about it, is that the mainstream press, whether it's the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal owned by Rupert Murdoch, or the New York Times ownership structure, look who owns CNN. Look who now owns MSNBC or MS Now or whatever it's called. Is that they do not have the interest of the American people in mind. They have their corporate interest. They have their they're the same handful of oligarchs look at the Washington Post now. Do you think that the Washington Post is is credible in any way? I don't think it could be possibly credible in any way, even though I know that there are individual journalists that work there that are trying to work within the system to do it, but it's not happening, man. So I've just said that I'm not speaking to any of them.
I noticed
I don't have any interest in going through an editorial process that I know is completely and utterly broken. That is, and so, that's why I will and am going and I'm speaking to you because I know that you have a loyal audience that knows and trusts what you have to say, that, pushes back on you, that agrees with you, that disagrees with you, that is, but that is informed. I know if they're listening to you, they're informed. They're not necessarily captured by some, algorithm that's set by Elon Musk. And so I think that we have an opportunity to be able to go directly to the source, to directly to the people and speak across platforms and not be, all these guys, they keep telling us over and over and again. If you go and you watch CNN, we are so divided as a country. This division, we're maybe on the verge of a civil war. There's this violence. You know what? What a bunch of bullshit. You telling me that we're more divided than we were in 1968 after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and Robert Kennedy? You're telling me that we are in any way more divided than we were in 1860? You're telling me that we're any more divided or that we have a division in what we believe in the direction of the country in 1939 when we had a fascist movement here in the United States, centered right here in Los Angeles, that was headed by Charles Lindbergh, who was the most famous and adored person in the world. We've always had this fight. There's always been a permanent confederacy in the United States. The battle is occurring for the soul of the nation, and it happens every generation. The question is, have these guys broken the rule of law to the degree that we won't have the opportunity to address it?
I like that you said that because I think it's really popular right now, especially in online platforms, to be really cynical. And I have more optimism, I think, than a lot of my counterparts, and see that same story. It feels so world-ending right now because there are huge existential threats, but it's not something, in my opinion, that we can't get through. And I think that it's kind of like if you picture the guardrails metaphor everyone always references with Trump, he's smashed so many of them. I think there's just enough time, like it's a short enough time when he's going to leave office, and just enough guardrails that will make it through if there's a good Democratic turnout. And the existence of Trump as such a destructive figure who's becoming so unpopular, I do think has a unique opportunity of setting up a broader coalition of
100%,
people
man.
around a more united principle.
Yes, exactly. And here's the thing that I truly believe. I think that the American people want desperately for there to be radical change. I think that we are at this inflection point in which we realize that the system as it is built now, particularly post like Clinton era, in which the inequality and it has only been more and more exacerbated. But all you got to do is look at the income gap. Mm-hmm. That has just grown and grown and grown. We've created, I think that there's now like close to 1,000 billionaires in the United States of America that control, and I don't know, and I'm making the numbers up, but it's really close to 20%, 30% of the entire wealth of the nation. Yeah. What is just not 0.1%, not 0.01%, but it's 0.001% of the population, and maybe even another zero in there. And I mean, I always point out, what puts you in the top 1% of income earners? $750,000. I don't know anybody that doesn't think that it lives here in Los Angeles, that if you make $750,000 and you have a house in West Los Angeles, and you have 3 kids in school, 2 in college, and like, you're living off of $750,000, but all of a sudden, we think that that's like top 1%. Oh, that's super rich. It's not super rich. That's a lot of money, but it's not super rich. 50% of our entire country makes less than, I don't know what the number is, but it's like $125,000 or $100,000. I think it's $85,000 less than that. Mm-hmm. People are struggling, and it's not always been that way. We keep being told that, it's always been like this. It hasn't been like this. After the New Deal, we really truly built a middle class. And how do we build the middle class? We built it by policies that realized that we needed a social safety net. We built it through unions that got us a fair and decent wage, that got an hourly wage, that removed children from the workforce, that created the weekend. All of that came by virtue of policies. All of it came by virtue of not what they're now trying to categorize as socialism or communism. I mean, what a ridiculous goddamn thing. What it is a fair deal.
Yep.
I think that we need a new deal. But to get back to your point, is that remember who owns these media outlets. Remember that they do not have the interest of the other 99%. And I mean 99% of us. 99% of us. And like, everybody says, oh, you gotta don't stop talking about taxing billionaires. It's the American bullshit. I mean, just literally bullshit. No one, whether it was my dad's administration or any Democrats that I know of, or even Gavin Newsom right now as it relates to this. You know how much we're talking about? We're basically saying that you should pay the same thing that a firefighter pays. You should pay the same amount in taxes as a percentage of your income as a school teacher. That's not a radical goddamn idea. That's not a socialist idea. And by the way, it was never the case in the United States of America. But we have had this long slide, not into anything close to socialism. We've had this long slide into an oligarchy, in which everything that's wrong about politics right now is only it could only exist in a country in which our politics is completely run by the virtue of money. And I use the greatest example of this is this, and I'm sorry I'm talking so much. Okay?
This is why you're here.
Okay, is this. In 2022, there was a whistleblower at Meta, which I think was still Facebook then, whatever. Facebook, Meta, whatever. Instagram. And she came forward and she said, and she produced documents that were internal documents from Facebook, in which they had done these long-term studies on the impact that the algorithms being fed to teenage girls were having on them and their health. And when I talk about health, I mean their suicide rates and their self-harm rates. And they found a direct causal link between the algorithms that they were pushing to these 13 to 17-year-old girls. And what they saw was an exponential increase in the rate of suicide among teenage girls, and even a greater increase in the rate of self-harm, reported by virtue of the fact that parents or otherwise would end up in the hospital because of of self-harm. And they found a direct causal link with their product. You know what they did about it? And all of the information and all of the data was produced to Congress. And she testified. And then she went out and tried to speak about it. You know what they did about it? Nothing. They didn't even change the algorithm. They did absolutely nothing. You know what Congress did about it? Nothing. And that's not, by the way, just because of Republicans. That's because you have so many of these Democrats. By the way, remember, Mark Zuckerberg was a big Democrat before, and so was Elon Musk, and so are all these guys that control these platforms. They all were, socially liberal, fiscally conservative, blah, 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 blah. Any one of them, do you think any one of them has a single political principle that they adhere to or a conviction that they care about other than money? And by the way, what are they all doing? And this is not like some conspiracy. You know what they're doing? They are amassing so much wealth and so much power over our daily lives by virtue of, I don't have my phone on me, by virtue of the bag of dopamine that we all carry in our pocket. And they are telling us that we're all divided. And they're saying, and the reason you're divided is because of immigrants or black people or gay people or, the real boogeyman, trans, that 0.2% of the population why does Elon Musk talk about trans so much? It doesn't have to do just with the fact that he has a trans daughter. He talks about it because you know what? If we all just took a moment, we would be picking up our goddamn pitchforks and finding them because they're the ones that are dividing us. They are figuratively. Yes. I really do mean that figuratively.
Yeah.
But they're concerned. I'm not saying that I'm advocating for this. I'm saying that they are smart enough to know.
Yeah, this is how you keep
that
people distracted.
The way in which they have amassed wealth. Do people understand what $1 trillion is? I mean, do they even remotely understand how, there's it's like the difference between a year and 2,470 years. I mean, the math behind it is beyond even my comprehension. There is no way on earth that a single individual should have that much power. And how does he use that power? Or how do all of these guys use that power? Well, they're finding ways to get off planet.
Yeah.
I mean, look, why do you think they want to get off planet? They're building bunkers on secluded islands. You know, why do Jared and Ivanka want to, have discovered an island in the Mediterranean that is, that part, just like, I just want to die. I swear to God.
They need a new island.
Ivanka Trump saying, and we were on one of the Rothschilds yachts. I mean, like, to talk about, you're talking about founding your own island in the Mediterranean with one of the Rothschilds. Like, just with let's dig into this conspiracy a little bit more.
Everyone has those summers.
Yeah. And Jesus Christ, Don Jr. marries Epstein's lawyer's daughter. We're not supposed to think that they're all like, oh my God, are they just slapping us in the face and like going and running and laughing and go, they don't even give a shit about any of this. It's fucking crazy if you think about it. But my point is that literally they're building bunkers. And as the world burns, why did Donald Trump start a war with Iran? Because you know what? It's a way for him to be able to control and manipulate the markets in the flow of oil. He's now basically, he's lost control of it because he's also a moron. And it gets me to this one point. The American people are not opposed to radical change. And that's why, in some ways, they voted for Trump. Because at least it was going to be changed from the status quo. What they are not, and they will not put up with, however, is pure and complete incompetence. They will not put up with the president who literally has sailors who are jumping off of aircraft carriers because Pete Hegseth is so incompetent he cannot even take care of the troops that he has put in harm's way. They are not willing to vote for a president who's so much of a goddamn coward that he literally will hide in a food truck and leave his staff and the entire White House press corps as sitting duck targets for a plane in which they obviously had credible evidence that was going to be the target of a shoulder fired missile.
Yeah.
Okay, they are not and will not put up with absolute rank corruption. I mean, Tammany Hall finally fell because they became so brazen about it that it was not even hidden anymore. And you know what? The people and the voters in New York City, regardless of how much they tried to rig things, one day got up and they busted it. It's what Teddy Roosevelt did. Teddy Roosevelt realized that at the turn of the century, is that when he was president, even though he was a part of that class, so to speak, he looked at what John D. Rockefeller were doing and what they were doing as it relates to Standard Oil and the amount of wealth and control and monopoly that they had aggregated globally, but particularly in the United States. And he did what the hard thing was. He broke up and he created a thing called the Fair Deal. The Fair Deal busted those trusts. They had created a more just and a fair tax system, and it didn't solve everything, but it was leadership at a time in which we were falling prey to what we're falling prey to right now.
Yep.
An oligarchy, a handful of people. And it is at this worst time that you could possibly imagine in which we need such a firm leadership and at the age of AI and the advent of AI that we have literally the worst leadership that we could possibly ever imagine.
One of the words that stuck with me in that I try to remember to use properly when talking about wealth inequality is power. Because I think sometimes liberal messaging can come off like we're just going, why do they have more money and we don't have as much money? But when you emphasize the term power, it's because a democracy can only function if the voice of the population can be heard. And when the wealth is so dramatically unequal, there's an ability for that to be leveraged in power that takes away a functional democratic system, right? Yeah. That I really do think, and I would advise my audience and anyone watching to make sure you use in discussing wealth inequality power, because it skews, it distorts a functional democracy when such a small group of people have such vast wealth, especially in a system that allows for unlimited spending.
Yeah. Here's another way to think about it, from my perspective, is that when these oligarchs talk about how they generate wealth, how they generate the jobs and industries and things like that. And all I got to say is this, is that as far as I understand, is that money is finite. It is not infinite. It is that you are taking that capital from someone and putting it into the pocket of someone else. Okay. So in order for these guys to have gotten as wealthy as they gotten from, where do you think the goddamn money's coming from? It's coming from your goddamn pocket. In order for Jeff Bezos to be worth $257 billion, he's getting the money from somewhere. And you know where he's getting it from? He's getting it from you. He's getting it from me. And what is he doing with it? He's not doing anything with it, but making himself richer. And so all of this talk, I just don't understand how it is that these guys, I do understand. What I understand is exactly what you said, is that they don't care. They don't care about a goddamn thing but themselves. And that's why they're willing to support the chaos and corruption of Trump. That's the reason why you look behind Trump, and the most visible people that were standing behind him at his inauguration weren't his family. It weren't his, old friends that had brought him up, or they weren't even the political leadership. Yeah. It was Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and a few others in the AI industry. Yeah. What's his name? And it's like, because you know what? There's where his power lies.
Yeah.
So I don't look, man. I feel like I'm like. It's all doom and gloom. The other side of it is that I think that there's such an opportunity. Yeah. Great change comes from great disruption. One thing that Donald Trump has provided us for is this moment of great disruption in which once we crush it, we'll have an opportunity to build something that is, I think, much more equitable.
Love it. I know there's the doom and gloom side, but the fact that so many people of all different political ideologies would be nodding along as you say that, that's the hopeful part. I do think there's a big tide shift. This question might take a second to properly lay out the context for, but obviously there's a big trend right now of really popular right-wing or I would say MAGA or former MAGA figures. Some you've talked to, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson. And how to discuss them to me is a little bit of a question mark I have. Because I heard you in your Tucker Carlson interview say, I love Candace Owens. I think you said, I like Thomas Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene. And you specified that they're people that have kind of
quite there with Marjorie Taylor Greene,
kind of woken up.
Yeah.
But you mentioned her there, but that's what I kind of winced. Yeah. Not because I don't love welcoming new people into criticizing the destructiveness of Trump and want to incentivize someone like Tucker or Marjorie or Thomas Massey or Candace Owens to do so. But I also don't want to mislead people who trust us into thinking those are credible figures. Because someone like Tucker, to this day, even though he's anti-Trump, which is great, and against the Iran war, great, goes off on deranged conspiracy theories about like the Russian invasion of Ukraine and just simps for Russia nonstop. I heard him push this.
That's crazy.
I heard him push this idea that the West is making the Ukraine war happen. Like your father, was pulling the strings to start the Ukraine war because in this cabal of Western elites, there's a hatred that Russia is a majority white Christian country. So them continuing the war, even though of course it's Russia continuing the war, is to destroy the white Christian nation of Russia, even though I did a quick check and Ukraine has a higher white Christian population. So that talking about doesn't make sense. But the most important reason is because, of course, Russia invaded and is the one continuing the war every day. So how do you navigate as you sit down with people across the political spectrum, folks who I see as fundamentally, even if they're blowing in the wind right now in the correct direction, fundamentally dishonest, and use their platform to share good ideas without lending them a perception of credibility?
Yeah, I know. I'm pretty craven about this, and what I mean by that is that anyone, and I mean anyone, that is willing to say that Donald Trump is the most corrupt, incompetent, and threat to this country, and that he needs to be stopped, I'm willing to sit down with. Because Luke,
I love sitting down with them.
No, by the way, I completely agree with you. And for the next conversation that I have with Tucker, in which we got over this time about his involvement in the dehumanization of me personally, someone who he actually knew, not well. I mean, this whole thing about Tucker and I were friends. I knew Tucker socially for 30 years, and he lived in the same neighborhood. And so literally, I would see him in the neighborhood. We had mutual friends together. And I knew that he knew what he was saying about me was untrue. That was the first hurdle on a purely personal level, is I wanted to sit down with him and look him in the eye and say, hey man, like, can we agree that was bullshit? And he agreed with that. The second one was on this whole Biden crime family narrative that was created by when Tucker was at Fox and other people, and by Candace and by all of them. And I wanted, for more than anything, I think, for the audience, their audiences, to hear them say, we knew that was bullshit, but we said it anyway, and now I'm here to apologize. I think that breaking the delusion that was created, no matter at what level, is really important for people that have found themselves what I believe is a cult, for a mass cult following for the last 10 years. The third thing is this, is that I want their audiences to see me directly.
Yeah.
And not in a purely confrontational way.
Okay.
I'm there to tell them that we are not insane, that we are red-blooded Americans that believe in the same things that they do, and many of them are the same things that they do. Next time I sit down with Tucker, we'll have the capacity to do the old crossfire thing, where I get to challenge him about his views of Ukraine, which I'm completely on your side about.
Yeah.
I get to challenge his views about the Great Replacement theory and whether or not he does that. I get to sit down with him and challenge his views about a whole host of other things. But we got to get there first. Yeah. Right now, you know what? No one from our side is sitting down with Tucker. No one's sitting down with Candace. No one's sitting down with any of these
Tell
people.
him I'll sit down with them.
No, I will tell him. I will tell him that.
I like that.
And to be able to do it in a way where it's not a zero-sum game, where I have to completely and utterly destroy him and his character. And so when I say that I love Candace, let me tell you what I love about Candace, okay?
No, Hunter, don't
No, listen, I really mean it. I really mean it. On a personal level, is that Candace is, I know that Candace deeply cares about her family. It does not absolve her from the things that she said about other things. Mm-hmm. I know that she deeply actually has her faith is sincere, and I respect that very much. I know that she offered me a hospitality that she did not need to offer me when I went to do that thing with her, mm-hmm. and afterwards. She was deeply respectful of me as a human being and my family. And I greatly appreciated the fact that she had the courage on air to apologize to me. To apologize to me for the things that she said. But then I get to then talk to her. And I get to say, Candace, we fucking landed on the moon. Stop saying that we didn't. You know what I mean? But she laughed, and I get to say to her, like, I think that what you're doing as it relates to Bridget McCrone, I'm not a big Bridget McCrone fan, but like, what the fuck? Do you know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? And I get to but by the way, and I get to laugh with her about this now, because you know what? We've connected on a human level.
Yeah.
I don't believe that all of these people, I think that I don't believe that I mean, clearly, you know, one of the things that Tucker said to me, the thing that he's most regretful in his life.
Getting attacked by that demon?
No, not getting. That was quick. No, I think that woke him up. No, the thing that he said is that his over a decade at Fox News is being no, listen to me.
Okay, I'm listening.
Okay,
sorry.
And I really mean it. And what I realized is he really is that, and so I gave him the benefit of the doubt that, you know what, he really did regret that. And he regrets all of the things. And by the way, does that make up for all the things he said? Not even remotely. But you know what? I get to talk to Tucker now. And I get to pick up the phone and say, when he, like, I hope I do. You know, I got him on text and say, hey, man, like, that's bullshit. Let's sit down and talk about it. Instead of thinking, like, I gotta destroy him. I gotta destroy him personally. I gotta, Trump, more than anybody, has created this atmosphere where we used to sit down and argue and talk, and you get to go on these shows of other people, and but the thing that I say to everybody in the mainstream, particularly, regardless, whether you're Jake Tapper or others, or the Pod Save America guys, like, I can't believe that he went on the show because he said that you're not an anti-Semite, and we know like, what the fuck do you know? You don't know fucking shit. But beyond that is this. You're willing to platform a 34-time convicted felon, adjudicated rapist who has over a dozen credible claims of sexual assault against him, who is currently fleecing. No, not the Pod Save America guys, but I'm saying anybody in the mainstream press. Is you sit down, you'll change everything in order to be able to platform the current president of the United States, who is, by the way, a avowed racist. I don't care what anybody says. The evidence is that it is in my opinion responsible for a genocide that's occurring right now by the virtue of the fact that he ended USAID. You know how many children are going to die by the estimations of at least 3 credible sources, ranging from the University of Colorado to Harvard, in the world right now because we ended PEPFAR?
Millions.
4 million children under the age of 5. This is just one statistic. 4 million children under the age of 5 will die by 2030 because of what we did what Elon Musk and Donald Trump did to USAID and PEPFAR.
Yeah, absolutely horrendous. Let's go back for a second. I hear your point. I do not believe inherently it's wrong to sit down with anybody. So just to be clear, my criticism isn't why would you sit down with
I'm about
X?
to think it's wrong to sit down in this goddamn interview in about 2 seconds.
Based on
No, I'm
how it
joking.
started.
Yeah. You want to keep talking about this, motherfucker. Exactly.
So I think it's all about how do you conduct the interview. You could sit down responsibly with Trump and do a good interview.
Yeah, but I'm not an interviewer.
You're not interviewing. No, I get that. I don't have any problem. I like what you're saying about you humanize people, they're going to humanize you back. This is random but funny and cute. My mom has the biggest heart in the whole world. And just before you showed up, she called and was asking, what are you going to ask and stuff? And was saying she really loves how you see first the humanity in people clearly, even if they spent years trying to destroy your life. Yeah. And that she believes has a reverberating effect that's positive. For me, I love that. And I have done a bunch of... I've done the whole beginning of my career started with talking to Trump supporters and stuff. So I get that. And I see it as, even if it's the most wacky Trump supporter at a rally who thinks that Biden was your dad was actually an actor but I know they genuinely believe what they're saying and they're coming at it in good faith, but might be Looney Tunes. I'm great. I want to talk. I have a bunch of family members who are MAGA. Love talking to them. I love what you are saying. We shouldn't have to ruin relationships to hash it out and debate. Except when I see someone as bad faith or dishonest. And with a Tucker, for example, I would still sit down with him, but in terms of how you perceive him and some of the positive things you were saying, I don't agree with you that he regrets. I regret my time at Fox News. I think he got fired, so then he looked for a new avenue, and now he's leveraging a good new positioning where you're kind of a rogue firebrand. Yeah. And the only reason I feel confident saying that is how many times he gets caught in lies. Yeah. Yeah. And even how he was like, yeah, sorry about that, Hunter, but why would any of us trust someone who has decades of a record because being I want dishonest, not being wrong.
I got it. I understand what you're saying, and it's a valid criticism, and a particularly valid criticism if the and if I were you, if I were if I had a show and my responsibility to my audience was to challenge people on that.
Yes,
I don't have a show. I'm not a journalist. I don't have any. I don't make any bones about this. I will go and speak with anybody anywhere that I choose because I get to choose. Is that I have been defined and a narrative has been spun about me that I have not challenged in front of any audience. For over a decade now. Mm-hmm. I get to choose now. Hear what I'm saying is that I also know this. It is not my responsibility. It's not my responsibility to challenge Tucker on every one of the things that you perceive as being him being insincere about. Now, maybe in the future, I get to do that. And maybe in the future, I do have a platform in which that is the purpose of my platform. But for me, what I think that if I am able to model for anybody is this: being the singular subject of their derision, hatred, and violent speech for over 7 years, is that if I can show that there is an opportunity for us to actually reach common ground on one thing, that the greatest source of that violent speech and derision and division has come from Donald Trump. I want to take that opportunity. I want their audience to see that there is a possibility for a Biden and a Carlson, regardless of how sincere or not that you think that he is, to sit down and afterwards shake hands and take a picture together. We can get back to those debates. But I think we need to get over that hurdle first. I mean it, man. They have huge platforms. They have they reach millions of people. And what I want them I want people that would be interested in what I have to say combined with their audience to hear us saying the same thing. Donald Trump is singularly the biggest problem that we all face right now. And I guess that's what when I'm
That's
saying.
A great answer. Yeah. That's because I understand what you're saying. you're invited by them or whatever. You're
Yeah.
the subject of the interview.
Yeah.
Your job's not to like grill them on. And I'm not imagining that would be it.
Yeah.
But I guess there was a perception in the quote that I read you of love Candace, like Massey and Marjorie Green, which was a part of the
Did I
quote.
say I like Marjorie Green?
You
I
said
wanted
that, yeah.
to say
You did.
is that I'm still not quite over that whole thing where she showed she had poster board blow-ups of me naked. She kept
I was going
showing
to
over
ask,
and
she
over
had a
again.
poster
She
board
loved those pictures though,
with
of me.
one
I just
portion-
want to say that.
with one portion redacted.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel good at all that they had to empty all the printer ink to redact?
Yeah. By the way, I know. That's what I like to say.
By the way, I know.
I will say. I guess what you'd expect from anybody. Oh God, but you know, if you're gonna be exposed. Yeah.
So
I think there's an enormous amount of jealousy coming from some of those people. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess so I'm trying to think. I'm also doing a little bit of getting to the heads of people who were more outraged because I'm closer to you than some people on the policy of show up everywhere, get your message out. That's better than the alternative of like, oh, we're going to sit on the sidelines and scream about how bad those people are. And then unite, even if a week from now, we're all going to have to turn and argue again, unite for a moment around opposition to Trump. I like that. And I see you're saying, okay, maybe I take back the Marjorie comment, but maybe it's when you are on those platforms and make character statements, like I guess the one you referenced that the Pod Save America guys took issue with. It feels like, well,
No. There
Do we
was
know
one.
that's
I guess
true?
they focused on one thing:
The
is me
anti-Semitic
saying
thing?
that Tucker Carlson, from my experience of knowing him, is not anti-Semitic, and I have to say that I truly believe that. I don't
Yeah.
say things that I don't believe, and I'm telling you from a position of having known him for a very long time.
it's pretty. He
Is
thinks. You remember he brought on that historian who thought Winston
I
Churchill
think
was the
that,
chief
but
villain.
again,
So,
I
I get what you're
yeah,
saying.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying.
I really mean this. Is that I know what that is that Tucker Carlson is also a it is a media horror in many ways.
Yeah.
And he realizes just like it's not even remotely close. And whether you want to object to that or not, I object to it.
Yeah.
I 100%
Yeah.
object to it.
I
But I
see what
know
you're
them
saying.
personally.
You have a
And
different
so
role. Yeah.
and here's the other thing, is that I think that if you keep yelling anti-Semitism, it takes it devalues what I know about anti-Semitism, which is this. The Jewish, if people can't figure out that there is a difference between the current Israeli government and its leadership,
Yes.
particularly as it relates to Bibi Netanyahu, and the reality of a real anti-Semitism that has not existed just since World War II, that is literally thousands
Yes.
of years old, that there is an ancestral trauma that every Jew carries, which is not just because of Adolf Hitler in the Third Reich, but it goes back 2,000 years, in which literally the Jewish people have been subjected to the conspiracies and scapegoating of power after power after power, of people after people after people, and that there is a legitimate and understandable fear and concern that everyone in the world that is Jewish carries inside of them, that has been informed by their lived generational experience. And I am so, I mean, as I always say, is my wife is Jewish, my son is Jewish, my brother-in-law is Jewish. The first place I ever went with my dad. My brother went when he turned 16, and then I went when I turned 16. The first place my dad took us outside of the United States ever, and we went everywhere with my dad, but the first place my dad took us, when my brother turned 16, he took my brother to Auschwitz, because it tells an entire story of the failure of an entire people. And when I turned 16, I went with my dad to Munich and went to Dachau. And it was deeply embedded into our kitchen table about what that represents, And some of the reason why I know generationally my dad considers himself, and he has said this publicly, a Zionist, is the idea that there is a need for that. Now, I know that even mentioning that word creates like this gigantic division, but I think we're all, but I'm not running for anything. So I'm here to tell you, if you don't understand that it's more complicated than the moment right now, then you're not, then you have no understanding of history whatsoever. And I'm not saying that you need to support it, but all I'm saying is that I believe there's a genocide, and I also believe that there is ancestral trauma due to true anti-Semitism that Jews have been subjected to for not just decades, not just centuries, but for millennia.
Yeah, and I totally get where you started that.
How did we get talking about?
Yeah, I was about to say
Jews. Hey, let's touch the third rail. let's piss everybody off on this show.
It's because you were saying,
are you a Zionist?
Some people.
Let's see if I can cancel Luke right now.
I'm going back to where you were.
Tell me, Luke. Can you want me to defend Tucker Carlson? I don't.
No, I do want to go back.
I absolutely refuse to.
And
by the way, his obsession with Putin is just insane.
It's insane.
Anyway, okay, yeah.
I agree. Because you were referencing where we started was the Tucker anti-Semitism claim, and then I agree with the point you beautifully laid out, nuanced point, and then, and if we throw anti-Semitism as a term at people too much, whenever it's actually in response to criticism of the Israeli government, the power of the term, which is one that we should care about, is diminished. Yeah. And I understand that. So I also try to call out.
Let's save anti-Semitism for true anti-Semites like Nick Fuentes.
Yes.
And the perfect example. I go on Andrew Callahan and he invites Nick Fuentes to sit down and have a conversation with him. And I call him out on that because you know what? I know Nick Fuentes to be an avowed anti-Semite.
Yep.
And regardless of this, you don't joke about the Holocaust and tell me that you're not anti-Semitic. And he said, oh, it was a joke and he didn't mean it. He's not a Holocaust denier and this, that, and the other thing. And I made the point to him that it's like, that's all great, Nick, but just so you know, it really is it is violent to people that have that have a relationship to that history, and not only to people that have a relationship to that history, but to anyone that has any decency. It is violent to their existence, and so for people like that, I'm more than willing to call it up. I don't care what anybody says. Is that I think that let's start talking, man. If you want it to turn into a fight, I'll turn it into a fight. If you want to turn it into, but like I don't know, when did we got to this point where, there are certain people out there that can be the arbiter of who we sit down with. Jesus Christ, put me in a whole room full of MAGA. You know what they started calling me when I went on X? Is the MAGA whisperer. Yeah. You know why? Because what I would talk about is things that connect us rather than divide us. Yes. And if I don't know. I just feel like it is if I'm going to do this, I'm just going to be me.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I can't, because you know why? Because I've been given the gift of this, this courageous self exposure. It's all out there. Mm-hmm. I can't hide from who I am or who you perceive me to be. Yeah. All I can be is me, and I want to go talk to anybody that I can talk about it. Yes. And if they're civil to me, it does not mean that I agree with them. If I'm civil back to them, it does not mean that I vehemently disagree with Tucker's viewpoint about Russia. But to say that Tucker's viewpoint about Russia makes him evil is another thing. I think that it makes him wrong. I think it makes him deeply wrong. I think that it makes it incumbent upon us with a different viewpoint to call him out on it.
Yes. And I'm just going to repeat one more time so you don't walk away thinking I was saying something else, that I love going on this platform. I love that as a choice, and then being transparent.
You think I'm an asshole. That's what I heard
and
you said my mother loves you, but I think you're an asshole. Well, Mom, I love you. And we both should have a talk with your son. He's been consulting me from the moment I came on this show. It's such bullshit. Yeah, exactly. And you can keep that.
Oh, I'm keeping it.
By the way,
I'm framing it.
according to the New York Post, is worth at least $500,000. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Oh, I will. 100%.
No, honestly, I wanted, when I see you on those platforms, and I know where you stand on most things, then I get curious what you feel about these figures. Because I agree with you. Sometimes they
fucking drive me crazy. So what do you think I feel?
So I'm not like, don't go on there. I'm like, what are you perceiving? If it's chummy, I get it. You're having a civil conversation, uniting around opposition Trump. But what's really in the heart and mind was my curiosity.
Yeah. Look, man, I get, I think that I get, I don't think I get, I know I do get to do this. I get to do whatever the fuck I want to do. And here's what, I'm not running for anything. Nobody in my family is running for anything. I'm not talking on behalf of the Democratic Party. I'm not talking on behalf of anybody. I'm talking on behalf of myself. And you know who I am? I am I'm a father. I'm a son. I am a former crack addict. I am, I've been in motel rooms with prostitutes, and thank you. What? By the way, he didn't draw this, any people. I just want everybody to know he's a fraud.
Sorry, I cut you off. Keep going.
I'm done now. I'm done. But I just get so sick and tired of like the other people. Well, Hunter said, he's a blah, 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 blah. You don't stop watching me. You're sick of seeing me. You think that I know what I think about. Look, people that I've sat down with that I think are brilliant. Mm-hmm. Jennifer Welch is brilliant. She says some pretty harsh stuff out there, man. Yes. But you know what? I love Jennifer Welch. I think what she's doing is incredibly important and things. I've talked personally to, for instance, Hassan Piker. Do I think the things that he said are batshit fucking crazy? Yeah. But you know what? He's been doing this since he was 18 years old, and he's been, live streaming, 10 hours a day for the past, decade now or something like that. Some of the things you're going to say are batshit crazy. I don't think you throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't.
Yes. I just taught them that phrase. Sorry.
Oh, you did?
They didn't know it, yeah.
Wait, you guys didn't know about babies or baths? What kind of morons you have working with you? These are your partners? Oh my God almighty. Okay, guys, there are these things that come from women. But a man, anyway, that's the baby part. We'll go into it afterwards, okay? Anyway, but I feel like, I think that the more that we are able to express and see the humanity in each other is like what bad I'm not going to ask. One thing you learn in law school is never ask an open-ended question like that. I was about to say, what bad could come from that? And I can just imagine the comments right now. That's going to get clipped. And the comments are, oh, let me show you the pictures. Like, oh, let me show you the quote-unquote laptop. A lot of bad. Yeah.
I did want to ask how your dad's doing.
He's okay. I did this BBC interview and I was just emotional because it's emotional. I mean, it's like another thing. It's like, oh my gosh, like people talking about cancer. Who doesn't have a family member that's going through it right now? Everybody. And so it's not in any way like what we're going through is unique. In fact, it's ubiquitous. It's everyone is experiencing it, and the beauty that I am able to do because I have to live it publicly, not by any choice, but by virtue of the what my family chose to engage in, which is public life, is that my dad has cancer. It's stage 4 prostate cancer. Most of that has been dealt with by virtue of the radiation that he went through. But the fact of the matter is that it metastasized. And that was the original diagnosis. And he has metastatic bone cancer now, which is controlled by hormone therapy. Hormone therapy is really rough to go through. it depletes your energy. It depletes your, you have all the kind of the symptoms that somebody's going through an extreme case of menopause as a woman would go through. And it's hard. And it's hard for anyone. It's hard for someone who's 83. It's hard for someone who's, in their 50s or 60s. And I can't stand it for him. He's such an active person. Is that the problem is that he hasn't stopped. So, I mean, he's been, writing this book. He desperately wants to go out and promote this book after. And he is, he just is like a man who I've never known anyone to match his energy, to watch him, fight against this. I really just wish, say like, Dad, just effing lie down. I mean, that's the way I feel like it.
I want to let you go, but I got two more really quickly.
Yeah, take your time.
First, how real are political friendships? Example being the photos of Obama and Biden. How real is that versus for the cameras?
100% real. And with
case.
them, I know that they have a deep love for each other and a deep respect for each other. I was telling somebody that asked me about this, like this whole idea that there's like this rift between my dad and President Obama and the way that it went down and things like that. And the people that, all I know is this, is that I think that my dad, my dad's service as vice president of Barack Obama was one of the greatest honors of his life beyond being president himself. I don't know of anyone that is a better advocate for what it means to be a Democrat beyond my dad than Barack Obama. And their friendship and their love for each other is deep and it's real. And it was forged through the fires of a job in which oftentimes it rips people apart and historically. And with them, it forged them together. Our families are intertwined. My girls and the Obama girls are been best friends since they have been very, very, very small children, and it continues to this day. And I will say this too, is that when my brother and I sat with my dad and talked about whether or not he should accept the nomination as vice president for Barack Obama, is that I thought it was the most it is a singular pride of my life, is that that Barack Obama, because of who he is, but also because of what he represented, asked my dad to be his partner in that. And there will never be a time in which their legacies are not completely and wholly intertwined. And from my perspective, as a Biden, I can't think of anything that is more incredible than that.
That's awesome. Last question. If you could pick one person, for me, it's Jon Ossoff, 2028 nominee.
That's really hard, but I'm just going to say this because of my personal respect and love for him, and it's Gavin Newsom.
Okay.
Gavin Newsom has been a really loyal, incredible friend to me personally, and also the way that I love the way that he stands up for my dad. Now, that being said, is that I just think that there's so many incredible candidates out there, and we're all sitting around like fretting, like, oh my God, like I'll tell you one thing, who reminds me of Barack Obama in certain ways, just in terms of is Dr. Abdul Al-Sayed. It's like, you watch him. He's a Rhodes Scholar, MD, epidemiologist that is this incredible athlete, and he born and bred, Michigan, and talks just like he's from Michigan, at like real people talk. I mean, I find him to be an incredibly spectacular candidate, despite all the hand-wringing from people that call themselves, the leaders of the Democratic Party. Like, I don't even know your fucking names. Like, you know what I mean? This idea, like, that there's some, like, mythic leadership around here. All of this circular firing squad stuff that we're doing. You know who I love, too? I love AOC. I mean, you know who else I love? I love Ro Khanna.
Yeah.
I think he's great. I love this too. I get to talk about the Democrats that I love. I think John Ossoff's done, like he's on fire right now. And he has the benefit of the virtue of a challenging race in a red state.
Yeah.
I think that, what Josh Shapiro and the way his leadership in Pennsylvania has, been great. I love Gretchen Whitmer. I think that she is great. But just personally, Wes Moore. Wes Moore is incredible. I love Wes Moore. He's incredible. There's so many. I love J.B. Pritzker. I really do. Like, he's like, I think he's I just love the fight in Governor Pritzker. That's the thing. As Democrats, why are we always so like, oh boy. I could go on and on.
Yeah.
I could go on and on with people like, I love Jasmine Crockett. I love James Tallarico. Tallarico's amazing. I mean, he's a preacher and he talks and he speaks and he's authentic and he's real and he knows the red letter words of Jesus Christ in a way that he lives them and expresses them in terms of his belief in the policies. I mean, like, perfect candidate for Texas, right? I just think that we have so much opportunity if we stop sitting around in these, like thinking that the people that sit in those chairs get paid to sit in those chairs in the round tables at MS Now and CNN or somehow speak for the Democratic Party.
Right.
Like, I know I don't speak for the Democratic Party, but I'm positive they don't. I'm positive. So,
Hunter, thank you so much. This was quite the ride, huh?
I appreciate it, man. And I just want to let you know is that I am back up to 48.5% gay. Okay? Okay.
Congratulations.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.